Dear delegates and participants of the ICDE Leadership Summit 2024, representatives of the local authorities, our event partners and sponsors, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you all and thank you for joining us on site and online in this opening ceremony. It is a true delight seeing you all, having traveled from afar to the shores of the Lake Geneva to reflect on the timely topic of ethical leadership in the age of AI, rethinking the futures of education. My name is Amélie Kwe, and I'm the Academic Dean of Globethics. And I have the privilege to journey in a very modest way with the program and organizing committees of this summit. These committees have led with so much dedication, and they reflect the cross-organizational collaboration of ICDE and Globethics, the host of this event. I am grateful to the summit leadership in the person of ICDE President Mark Nichols, Globethics Executive Director Fadi Daou, the Chair of the Organizing Committee Globethics Deputy Executive Director, Ms. Lucy Howe-Lopez, and the Co-Chair of the Program Committee, ICDE Secretary General Torun Yelsvik, and all the members of these committees and our dedicated teams. I could not imagine this summit happening without all those who have contributed in organizing it and in supporting us. It is our immense joy to be able to open this summit now and to see how this program will come to life. It is a collaborative work. It is an event where your expertise, your experiences, and we believe your expectations will come to bear. We will learn from another, we will engage with one another, and we will hopefully also make a change in the world of learning. There is much wisdom, I believe, in the saying, if you want to be fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. I can say with conviction that both our committees have worked well together. We have given expression of this wonderful collaboration, and I'm happy to see coming this to fruition today. It is now my distinct pleasure to introduce you to Ms. Larissa Zutter, who is the Senior Policy Advisor at the Center for AI and Digital Policy, who will guide you and all of us through our opening plenary. Larissa, kindly join us.
Hello, everyone. It's so nice to see everyone's lovely faces here and that everyone's made it here. We have some really interesting topics to talk about throughout these 3 days, and we hope that you'll all take the time to engage in as much as possible, also to engage with each other, share ideas, but also to then take a lot of those ideas back to your organizations. I want to go ahead and start off by inviting up two of the people who are representing the organization committee, the two organizational organizations, that the ICDE and Globethics. First, I'd like to invite to the stage Professor Christoph Schückelberger, who is the president of Globethics, and he will go ahead and invite us to this first part of the summit.
Good morning, everybody. It's my great honor and pleasure to welcome you warmly for this opening of the ICDE Leadership Summit 24. Before I come to my speech, I would like to share a dream. Just coming in here, I said, oh, I think AI will give a bright future because I will see in my eyes the names of you, which I forgot, and the function and the institutions. So it facilitates the networking with AI. Let's see if that is bright or dark when it comes. Now, Globethics is your host and main organizer of the global conference, as we heard. I'm Christoph Stückelberger, Globethics founder and president. We founded it here in Geneva 20 years ago, and professor of global ethics on various continents, including China. I see a good delegation, many delegations from China. Globethics cooperates with ICDE, the International Council for Open and Distant Education, since many years. I represented Globethics as keynote speaker already 2015 in South Africa, and we have some representatives who have been there in 2015. I especially welcome the partner institutions which are represented in the opening and closing ceremony. ICDE, of course, as the partner of this event with Globethics. Je salue aussi les représentants du canton de la ville de Genève, très important. The ITU International Communication Union, EJ, the International Center for Higher Education Innovation of UNESCO in Shenzhen, we visited recently, the Institute of Education at Tsinghua University in Beijing, and in the closing ceremony, we will also have several institutions, UNESCO, Qatar Ministry of Education and Higher Education, the Ethiopian Ministry of Higher Education, the Group for International Cooperation of Brazilian Universities, where we also have a partnership with them. So you see, it's really global and it's inclusive as we want to be. And I'm very happy to have this diversity also in this hall. I equally warmly welcome representatives of UN agencies. There are many here in Geneva, and this is a good opportunity for networking, and also of Geneva International. The participants, the speakers, the panelists, the guests, and also Globethics experts. We have experts on AI and higher education, and many of you are in this field or want to learn more, as just one participant said, about this fascinating, threatening, whatever we call it, field. Globethics is a foundation under Swiss law based here in Geneva. In our new strategy 23-27, AI is one of the top priorities of Globethics, apart from peace and sustainability, which are interconnected, of course. With a clear international framework offered in our policy report under the title Inclusive AI for a Better Future. So the word inclusivity is very key for our two organizations. We've published a number of books already since 2018 on AI and cyber and data ethics, AI in higher education. And also we made contributions since many years, since 20 years, in fact, at the WSIS, World Summit for the Information Society here in Geneva. And AI, of course, is also the top, was the top event or topic there, also at the UN Summit for the Future in Nairobi 2 weeks ago. We also co-organized an event in July on AI and human rights with the Technical University of Munich. So this shows this, it's all in the air, all about AI. And of course, it can be a hype, but it will transform the world without doubt. We also strengthen advocacy and policy dialogue on global level. We have the largest online library on ethics. We have our own publishing house, all with a goal to strengthen ethics in behavior, thinking, argumentation, and institution setting. ICD and Globethics are both highly committed to cooperation with you and all those who are convinced for a just, inclusive, and sustainable future, we need a holistic education. We need the tech guys and the technical knowledge, but that is nothing if it's not rooted in values. And that is our commitment here together. And you are all, almost all of you, in leadership positions in universities around the world. I also welcome the director of our neighbor institution here, the Graduate Institute, Professor Sall, who is one of these leaders in this international Geneva educational institutions. So we need to integrate this ethical aspect. And I come to the last part where I want of this short introduction. The topic of this ICDE Leadership Summit is Ethical Leadership in the Age of AI, Rethinking Futures of Education. What does it mean? I concentrate on one only word, leadership. Leadership was the topic, the top topic in all 20 years since I founded Globethics in Geneva 2004. The terms changed: ethical leadership, responsible leadership, integrity leadership, and many more terms. But the core is the same. The core is the same. We need more than ever values and virtues-driven leaders. What does it mean? Integrity, honesty, accountability, responsibility, endurance, sticking to the values also when others water them down. And that's hard, and we all know it needs a lot of strength and rooted in our values, otherwise we are blown away by common trends. The third are courage, to resist where needed to temptation of power and greed. Once we are in power, it's nice to have power, I don't want to give it up again. Compassion for those in need and in confusion. Not only the poor, but we are all poor because we are confused in this complex world. Hope, espérance, not only espoir, when other leaders give up. Clarity, dismantling false prophets and fake promises and providing guidance in a world of polarized confusion. And passion for the common good in and over personal interests. That is 7 keywords just to highlight what I understand under ethics and leadership, ethical leadership. I wish all of us fruitful, passionate debates, exchanges, and networking. And I close with a thank you in different languages, because different languages means different cultures, different value systems, and this is one part of our commitment. Donc, merci beaucoup. Asante sana. Terima kasih, gracias, xie xie in Chinese. Shokran gidan, spasibo, danke, obrigado. Thank you so much.
So thank you so much to Christoph for those wonderful words, and I hope that we can take that all into this summit and take it to heart. I'd like to introduce the next person, or one of the next people we have to thank for this lovely conference, Mark Nichols, the President and Executive Director of the ICDE.
Greetings to you all, dear delegates and distinguished guests. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the 2024 ICDE Leadership Summit on behalf of ICDE, the leading global membership organization working to bring quality education to all. And any discussion about bringing quality education to all across a global stage must now include artificial intelligence. It's gratifying to see leaders and experts from around the world gathered here in this absolutely beautiful setting. The travel, even from the other side of the world in New Zealand, is most certainly worth it. We have 3 days of inspiring conversation and learning to benefit from across our 3 themes. And we are among global leaders here, so I trust there will be plenty to debate, learn, explore, disagree with, and most importantly, to take back with us to improve our own practice. Our hosts, Globethics, have worked hard to bring us plenty of thoughtful opportunities to workshop and explore. I don't know what your first experiment with AI was following the release of ChatGPT 3 in November 2022. Mine was a poem for the farewell of a colleague done for a joke. I wasn't aware of how powerful ChatGPT might be, and I was both impressed and bemused at what came back. It became apparent that ChatGPT does not have a very good sense of humor, but it can certainly make things rhyme in the meter of Dr. Seuss. The more I experimented with ChatGPT, the more impressed I became. Now, AI is much more than just ChatGPT, but I hope my example here will resonate. The potential hit home for me when I was asked to come up with a definition of work-based learning across 9 organizations, each involved in work-based learning, who thought about it completely differently. In discussion, they were unable to agree on a summary of how work-based learning might be represented. I tried to summarize the main points of the discussion myself, but was unable to get agreement. I don't know if you've ever tried to write a document by committee. So mindful that ChatGPT might be useful and wanting to again experiment, I asked each organization to provide me with a single paragraph of what work-based learning was from their perspective. Once I had 9 in very different formats and each emphasizing very different things, I requested ChatGPT to offer an inclusive summary. And it worked. All 9 organizations were very happy with the output, mainly because they couldn't blame me for it. My eyes were already quite incredulous by the poetry of Dr. Seuss, but now they were really opening. AI is most certainly big. And of course, AI did not suddenly become a thing in late 2022. I was fortunate to have one member of staff who was particularly interested in the potential of AI and its potential for how it might contribute to courseware production in higher education. So I like to think that we at Open Polytechnic did get a head start with some prototypes. But we quickly discovered that the challenges of AI are far from just technological. They are ethical, they are organizational, they are multi-layered, and they are very complex. I like to think of AI as a charging elephant, unstoppable, and just too much to take in all at once. Many of our students are using AI. Many of our staff are using AI. And there are amazing benefits for our organizations in harnessing AI and building it into how we operate. But the potential is outstripping our ability to adopt. Over the last year and a half, we've had to wrestle with student cheating, students using AI like an academic steroid. We've had to play catch up with policy and reconsider our assessment practices, all alongside the fear that we may be missing out or we might be falling behind. We must also face the likelihood that we may not be preparing our current graduates for 21st century realities and may be denying them access to reliable digital tutors who are ever available and ever patient. And just before this event, OpenAI released ChatGPT Edu, powered by GPT-4o. Things have now gone multimedia and conversational. The technology is now truly on our doorstep, frantically knocking, or perhaps now simply demanding to be let into our institutions. And it's not clear what it will do once it is inside. There are 3 things that concern me as an educator, so 3 things I'll be looking for in this summit. The first is the extent to which AI will enhance and displace student understanding. Will access to knowledge eventually replace the ability to critically think about knowledge? Will the shortcuts of AI bring about thinking atrophy? This is my educational challenge. The second is how AI will change the higher education sector and how universities will operate. If an AI can represent the voice of a subject as well as a highly qualified instructor and timetabled tutorial team, how do we plan? What operational and pedagogical decisions must we make? This is my organizational challenge. But my third is by far the greatest and most disturbing. And it's this that I suspect we will spend the most time engaging with in this event. I was at a conference earlier this year where one keynote speaker mentioned that we're used to thinking about people as either rich or poor. Those categories are now no longer sufficient. There is a proportion of the population now so wealthy that the term rich is insufficient to describe them. They are the uber rich. So the strategies traditionally used for bridging the divide between the haves and have-nots simply are not adequate now when the categories are skewed by the have beyond all understandings. And with AI, we can get caught up with the potential of personalized tutors, unlocking real-time understanding, and having access to knowledge beyond anything I thought we would see within my lifetime. But this accentuates the digital divide to an unacceptable degree. In 2023, it was estimated that 33% of the world's population, around 2.5 billion people, did not have internet access. Most of the world's cultures do not have an adequate representation in common AI training materials. Issues of access, and for want of a better term, digital colonization, are now much greater than they ever were. And so my third challenge, AI will change how we see ourselves. It will change how we see our world, how we express our creativity and curiosity. It will also subtly change our ideas and those of the generations to come through a form of digital colonization. For many, when they finally can access tools such as OpenAI, they will at best see a distorted version of their world reflected in it. There's a subtle determinism there that leaves me feeling uneasy. We must never equate artificial intelligence with artificial wisdom. It's all of this that makes quality education, even detached from AI, so important, because at stake here is what it means to be, to know, to discover, to be human, to be culturally centered, to have the right to flourish in ways consistent with one's heritage. I call this the ontological challenge, the challenge of being. So there are three challenges I bring with me as I think ahead into this event: the educational challenge, the organizational challenge, and the ontological challenge. But I did not want to close on too somber a note. So I did request ChatGPT provide me with a welcoming address ending that would be inspirational. And of course, I asked it to do so in the meter of Dr. Seuss. I hasten to add that this is all that AI contributed to this address. So here we go. Today is important, it's grand, and it's great. A chance to come together and collaborate. In a world full of wonders and challenges too, our shared efforts can make dreams come true. So what brings us all here is a desire to show and benefit from leadership. The ICDE Leadership Summit provides a rich forum for all that we have to deliberate. I look forward to taking away ideas related to the educational, organizational, and ontological challenges that now confront us, because the charging elephant is only gaining speed. I'll now hand over to our moderator who will tell us how we will achieve our objectives. And so a very warm welcome to you all. Thank you.
So thank you so much for those wonderful introductory remarks. I'm sure that we can all take those and hopefully let them carry throughout the entire summit. And I hope that those are some of the things that we will at the end have some thoughts to carry on with. So as you can see, this is the program overview for the entire summit. We have a lot of different topics and things to cover. There are 3 streams that you can see at the bottom that everything is based around. And we encourage you to go to as many things as you can. We also encourage you all to download the app. There is an event app, and within that, all the information is in there. It also allows you to connect with each other, but also it allows you to RSVP to different workshops, which immensely helps with planning, but also with networking. So please do make sure to RSVP to whatever you're interested in going to. We also have a quick security announcement that we need to make, so I'm going to go ahead and hand over for that.
Thank you, Larissa. A warm welcome to everybody on behalf of the organising committee, and welcome to everybody joining us online, and so many of you who've come so far for such a rich programme that we've put together. And we have some housekeeping for you, if we can just put up the slide. Okay, well, a reminder then for those who came in a little after the time, please only bring water into the meeting groups, no food or drink. There's no smoking on campus. We're in this lovely campus biotech, so we like to respect that space, and we can't smoke at all. We have to leave the campus to smoke or vape, so please follow the instructions to go there. Very important, if there is any incident, when you're in this area, you leave through the emergency doors on this side, okay? And when you're in the forum, you follow everybody else. For badges, you've all got a security badge, and there's a number on the back. If you yourself spot a fire, then call this number, they know what to do. Or if someone has a malaise, call this number, they know what to do. Don't even call the emergency number, because they will call and give the exact directions on how to get to the venue, okay? Really important. So, and if you need anything else, you've got your badge. Some of the badges have lanyards with Globethics on. These are our team members. So just if you need anything, you've got any question, you can't download the app, you don't know where you're going, you want lunch and there's none left, then just ask somebody with one of these lanyards. So enjoy the summit, and I look forward to speaking to each of you during the 3 days. Thank you very much. Thank you, Larissa.
So I'm excited to go ahead and jump into our first set of remarks that will be made. We now have 2 remarks that we're going to be holding. The first one is going to be given by the UNESCO International Center for Higher Education Innovation representative and our event partner, Deputy Director Bi Xiao Hun. So I invite her to come to stage.
Dear higher education leaders and dear participants and guests, very good morning. Greetings from UNESCO ICDE in Shenzhen, China. It is a great pleasure for UNESCO ICDE to partner with ICDE and Globethics to co-organize this very great event in the beautiful city of Geneva. The topic and theme of this great event, ethical leadership in the age of AI, rethinking the futures of education, is very much aligned with the mandate, agenda, and work of UNESCO ICDE in higher education, which is to leveraging new technology to empower higher education innovation and to facilitate the process of higher education digital transformation around the globe. Through our work and mandate is realized through several functions and pillars, including knowledge production, technical support, information sharing, and also networking, and also capacity building of higher education workforce, including leaders and also teachers and support staff. Yes, so I think I have a PPT. Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah, so throughout this 3-day meeting, there will be a lot of discussions and deliberations on the topic of AI in higher education. And I hope and am confident that the takeaways will benefit all participants in this meeting and not in this meeting. And after this meeting, we will also formulate a policy guidelines discussing how to integrating AI in higher education. And I'm confident that those policy guidelines will benefit higher education institutions in a wider scope on discussing how to leveraging AI in higher education and improving higher education leadership, management, and teaching and learning. Actually, to kick off the discussions in the following sessions, to be more specifically, to set the stage for the discussion in the following sessions, I would like to give a little presentation about what UNESCO ICDE is doing right now in facilitating AI in higher education. So my topic for presentation today will be about upskilling and reskilling the higher education workforce to navigate higher education leadership in AI era. There has been very much discussion in the past years about the evolution of AI, especially generative AI in higher education settings. Actually, it is reshaping the perspective and also practices of students, teachers, and leaders in the way of teaching, learning, management, and governance. Actually, those changing higher education landscape require higher education educators and higher education institutions to re-equip themselves with new knowledge and competencies to engage in strategic integration and ethical integration of AI in higher education. So under this context, reskilling and upskilling of higher education workforce educators, including leaders and teaching personnel, has been gradually recognized as a very important strategic imperative for responsible and effective implementation of AI in higher education. So around the globe, there has been many good initiatives and opportunities to support HEI to reskill and upskill higher education workforce. In the case of Switzerland, ETH Zurich, the further training program actually helps a lot the teachers to deal with generative AI in the context of teaching and learning. From UNESCO IT, we launched and initiated a global initiative called International Institute of Online Education, briefly called IIOE, with objective of enabling partner HEIs around the globe to enhance the educators' digital competencies, to innovate the teaching, learning, management, as well as to facilitate the process of digital transformation. So IIOE actually was co-founded by UNESCO IT in December 2019 with 15 partner HEI in Asia Pacific and also in African countries and Arab states, and also 9 enterprise partner EdTech. As of today, IIOE is gradually developing from the original founding members into a global higher education digital transformation consortium or alliance composing of over 100 higher education institutions worldwide and over 30 enterprises in EdTech. And IOE online learning platform for supporting digital competency building of higher education workforce could support 6 UN official languages, including French, German, Chinese, Arab, and Spanish. And also, IOE's program has benefited over 12,000 higher education workforce around the globe from 130 countries. And especially, IOE, among its global higher education network, IOE has established 12 IOE national centers among identified partner HEI, serving as a national hub of IOE in specific countries. I would like to introduce a program that IOE initiated last year and which is ongoing this year. So it is called IOE Micro Certification Program for Higher Education Educators. The objective of this program actually is to support HEIs around the world to reskill and upskill the workforce with flexible and customizable solutions. To support the implementation and localization of this program in different national and institutional contexts, this program provides a suite of toolkits to support this process. On the right side is IOE Digital Competency Framework for Higher Education Teaching Personnel, which is developed and formulated by UNESCO IT with our research partner, aiming to serve as a reference for higher education teachers to evaluate the mastery of digital competencies in digital teaching and learning, and also serve as a roadmap for higher education institutions to plan and develop their own teaching competency program for the staff. And also throughout this implementation of this program, IOE program aimed to form a content repository that gathers not only TPD courses, but also cases and guidance that could allow exchanges and peer learning among higher education educators and higher education institutions in the field of digital transformation and AI integration in higher education. And also this program encourage and promotes the recognition of the digital competency building outcome by the respective institution or national regulating agencies. So it will provide policy guidelines and also opportunities for expert consultancy and counseling service for participating HEIs in localizing IOE MIC certification program in the respective national and institutional context. Currently, the competency framework for higher education teaching personnel is ready, and we are in the process of looking for partners to develop the competency framework for higher education management staff and support staff. Yeah, so this slide explains the approaches for the project implementation in different national and institutional contexts. I will skip the explanation. Actually, this project has already rolled out into the implementation phases. For example, in Indonesia, they are already conducting the IOE MIC certification program nationwide. And also our partner in this country, in Indonesia, is working very closely with different ministries and national regulating agencies to promote the recognition of the professional learning outcomes through IOE MIC certification program. The IOE National Center actually plays an important role in localizing and implementing the program in different national and institutional contexts. And IOE platform actually provides an online space for different IOE national centers to upload the courses or utilize courses provided by IOE, and they could configure their own national or institutional homepage on IOE platform and organize trainings and do certifications. Yeah, to provide all participants a little gift as a continuation of this event, after 3 days. So tomorrow, we are going to organize a launch event on IOE generative AI course launch. So this is a syllabus of the IOE generative AI course that we are going to provide. And tomorrow is a launch event, which will launch 3 courses that is open to all public HEIs around the globe. And also this year, we are organizing several regional policy dialogues on the topic of AI and generative AI in higher education. The first one is in Southeast Asia, which has already concluded in April. And the next one is in June, in the last week of June in Uzbekistan. And we will also circulate the meeting information for all participants who are interested in this topic. And yeah, thank you very much. And I hope you all have a very fruitful and enjoyable experience throughout this meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for those remarks. It was incredibly interesting and inspiring to hear what the work that you're doing. And I hope that we can continue some of those conversations going forward. I'd like to introduce our next speaker, who is Beatrice Ferrari, who's the Director of International Affairs for the Canton of Geneva.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, on behalf of Geneva authorities, I would like to wish you a very warm welcome to Geneva with much nicer weather than those who came last week. So we're quite happy. It's really a privilege to have you all here. Maybe a few words about Geneva. You are here in what we could describe as a very dense, diverse, and unique ecosystem made of more than 600 stakeholders, be it international organizations, be it NGOs, be it private sector, be it states represented here, be it, of course, also academia, all working in international cooperation. We like to describe it as a space of innovation. Actually, it's your space of innovation, as we are a converging point here from people from all over the world working for the world. We need, if we look at the global challenges, and we had already some insightful comment this morning, we are really facing some key challenges. And I think what we need, in order to address those, we need neutral, universal, inclusive platforms that bring together some of the best minds around the world to really find solutions and address those global challenges that we have. And this is obviously one of the topics that will be discussed in this meeting. And if we look at innovation and thinking about solution, there are some aspects that I think are really important. First, I believe that to be innovative, we need to bring around the table different voices. This seems very trivial, but the complexity of global challenges need us to have different voices that go beyond, a single organization, a single individual, a single state. We need to find ways to work together. We need to build bridges and find common ways of working and sharing the same language. It was reminded this morning that we all come with different sets of values, different languages, different cultures, but still we can always find converging points. We need inspiration as well. Let's not forget about that. We need to look at those who are really engaged in making things change, those who can be an example, and I'm sure that academia is providing so many of such examples. We need anticipation and foresight to be able to imagine what is going to happen in the future, to anticipate what is going to happen, but also we need to learn, and that comes back to education, we need to learn also to imagine the future, imagine also the world we want. And those competencies are not always evident. We need values. That was also reminded this morning. Let me share the values that, such as solidarity, equity, inclusion, sustainability, humanities, all values that you find here that are part of the spirit of Geneva and that are fully embodied by the organization like Globethics. And in every point that I highlighted just before, I think that education really stands as a cornerstone. Amidst this constant and rapid change that we see, especially with the emergence of new technologies, we must remember also the very foundation of our societies. Remember who we are. Education and lifelong learning are not just about adapting ourselves. I think they empower us all at all ages to become and to remain responsible citizens equipped to navigate the challenges, but also equipped to uphold what are our core values. And with this in mind, I wish you really very fruitful and engaging discussions in the next 3 days. I'm looking forward for the policy briefs that will come out of this discussion. And I was really happy already to have a lot of food for thought this morning in the previous speech. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much for your contribution. I would like to invite back to the stage Christoph Stückelberger and Mark Nichols for a quick picture, everyone together, and then we will move on to our opening panel.
Thank you.
So we're very excited to have our first opening panel where we have 4 people who will be giving remarks at the beginning. The first person I'd like to invite to the stage is Aaron Green, who's the founder of the Joyful Bot and also a lecturer at Thomas More University in Belgium.
Oh, I don't have slides. Sorry. I'm slightly disappointed. I thought I was going to be on a talk show. I was getting really excited. I'm really anxious about time, so I'm going to put a timer in front of me. I'm not checking my Instagram. There we go. Good. It's really good to be here. I teach at Thomas More University in the media school in Belgium, and I teach copywriting, which you could do as a job 2 years ago. And now that it has been more or less obliterated by the rise of generative artificial intelligence, and it has completely changed how I have to do my job and how the students will learn this, kind of fundamental skill in communication writing. 2 years ago, I could talk to them about sentence structure and composition and line editing. And now we have ChatGPT and we have to reckon with that. And I think it's been wonderful. I really like the students. I think the students that I know, they're in their early 20s and they're just hilarious and brutal. And they just keep me in line. I have a Samsung phone and they told me that was all right because the elderly don't need a lot of technology. And I was like, all right, I have arrived. I'm old. And, that kind of thing. So there's living in this immersive world of digitalization that is totally foreign to me as someone who was born in the 80s. And I have a Dutch speaking counterpart. So I teach in Flanders, and my Dutch speaking copywriting counterpart says with generative AI, there's no more critical thinking anymore. Frank is really like, get off my lawn. And I just think that's so wonderfully ironic because in that moment, he has failed to think critically about AI. And I think we're not going to stop it. We're not going to fight it. We're not going to legislate it into a corner. Why not, confront it and embrace what's good about it? So in my very brief time, I don't have time to talk about some of the ethical things that we are going to hear so much about. I do think it is kind of a hellscape in a lot of ways, but I'll leave that for other participants to talk about. And I'm also going to talk about feelings and emotions. And we don't have time to talk about, well, are the robots really feeling this? Is it perception? Is it, paralleling what humans experience and so on? We'll talk about it at the coffee break. But what I see basically is that with the rise of generative AI, there's really this focus on generation, right? We asked ChatGPT to give us something, we asked DALL-E to generate an image for us. And I think that leads to a failure in a way, because for me, the power in these tools is actually not just about the generation part of it, but about the interaction, the relationality, the back and forth, the training, this way that you can kind of develop, like almost like it's like a robot puppy that you can work with, for brainstorming, for, coming up with ideas. I think that is where we have a lot of power that is done a disservice by this label that it just generates stuff. So, in this potential for some sort of relationality, I think that's where you start to see this connection with emotion, right? With empathy, that I think is so integral to good pedagogy, to good education. My students hugged me, I'm a hugger. And they said, it's really nice because you care about us. And I'm like, of course I do. And I think that is so central to a positive learning experience, right? These kind of human elements. And when we look at institutes of higher education, they're so focused on traditional concerns about academic integrity, plagiarism, cheating, regulating it. I'm seeing lots of nodding, right? Yeah. And how can we put rules around this? How can we make sure the students don't do this with it? And I think that is just such an incomplete approach, right? So when I talk to the students, they have a lot of the same concerns I did 20 years ago, back in the dark ages with my card catalog. They're worried about what their parents are going to think. They're worried, they're broke, they're tired. I mean, they also go out until 4 a.m., so that's their own fault. But, they're also stressed about, what is my career going to be like? They have a lot of the same fears that I did, except they are immersed in this digital world that they cannot take a break from, right? My parents couldn't find me when I went out at night. And now they're just 24/7 on TikTok, and they have all of these extra pressures that kind of exacerbate this, strain on their mental health and their mental well-being, which of course has pedagogical implications. So I've been parsing, what does it mean if we would use this kind of digital immersiveness for their benefit, to kind of draw in empathy, to draw in emotion AI, to kind of have a more holistic approach to the integration of artificial intelligence in higher education landscapes. So one of the really interesting examples that I think we can learn from in higher education is from health, specifically mental health, mental well-being, and so on. And the example I want to talk to you is like a therapy chatbot, which feels quite similar to ChatGPT experience, but it's actually more restrictive. So a lot of the answers are actually scripted by human experts in cognitive behavioral therapy, for example, and so on. The other thing that's really interesting about it is that it's by prescription. So it's like any other kind of therapeutic tool, you have to be recommended to it. And it's also part of an ecosystem. So if you receive guidance from Wobot, then it's complemented by, a human therapist or a coach who reinforces this and who could kind of offer some guidance around it. And, where I think we can start to draw on this kind of like restricted but integrate it into a broader ecosystem is in this kind of therapeutic application where mental well-being and learning and pedagogy kind of all come together. So for example, the things about, I'm going to fail this test, I can't study, I don't have an idea for this project, I'm not getting along with my group members, and so on and so on. All of these things are not exclusively about mental well-being or student success. They're intricately intermingled, right? So here, what you have is kind of this possibility to have custom educational support that could be trained along lines of the individual student's needs, for example, about stress management, time management, a lot around language and cultural support. So I have a friend, I have breakfast with her this morning, and she is autistic. So she says that one of her points of friction in the workplace is that she can be very direct. And that makes working relationships difficult for her. So she has an AI tool that helps parse her emails for cultural appropriateness and where she needs to soften it and be a little bit, less direct and these kind of things. And she says that allows her to enter spaces where she would otherwise alienate herself. And similarly, we can imagine in my classes at Thomas More, I have about 80 students, and they come from 55 different countries. And so there is no dominant culture in my classroom. And yet there's certainly this expectation that I teach them one particular style of copywriting or one way of doing things. And this would help them bridge the space between their own culture, which I don't have time, in the space of 12 weeks to get to know everyone and the nuances of how they communicate and what is expected of them in the Belgian context, for example. The other really interesting benefit within this realm of possibility, looking at the therapeutic uses, is personalization. So particularly if we're looking at the context of distance learning, it can be quite isolating, and everyone has their own constellation of courses, their goals, and all of these kind of things. And when Microsoft eventually forces Copilot on all of us, we will all have our Copilot following us around. And, that Copilot will get to know, all right, Erin, you're a morning person, you got to do this in the morning, right? I was up at 4 a.m., doing my thing. That doesn't work for everybody, right? We all have our own struggles, and it allows for, personalization where a one size fits all model doesn't work. that kind of can match the different cultures, the different, educational ecosystems that we work with, while having some sense of unity over the whole, curriculum or syllabus, as you like. There's also great potential within tutoring systems and so on. But of course, I just have a few seconds left, I see. There's going to be enormous risks with this. So, as was mentioned in the opening, I'm a native English speaker. 90% of the content on the web is in English, right? So these large language models are mostly trained on people who talk like me, who think like me, on my cultural heritage. Things like facial recognition technologies we'll see increasingly. There's embedded, perhaps in marketing, evaluative tools where people will have their facial expressions evaluated to see how they respond to ads. Those might be integrated into learning systems for real-time feedback and so on. I mean, I come from Canada, and so it's really totally normal that we offered like this big full tooth grin, and like the big Canadian wave. And that I find in Belgium, that's seen almost as a little bit, aggressive in a way. So I find that I don't make so many facial expressions in Belgium. So these kind of things will open up, of course, huge problems with bias, privacy, and so on, along with, the implicit risk that an AI system offering some kind of therapeutic role could ultimately be harmful. But I do think this kind of intersection of what we learn from the health and healthcare landscape in artificial intelligence will be invaluable in creating something that is suitable for the higher education landscape. And I am at, I'm over, I'm sorry. That's it. Thank you so much. And I look forward to meeting you at the coffee breaks. Now I get my talk show.
Thank you so much. That was super interesting and a really great food for thought that goes beyond just the technology itself, but more with how we actually interact with each other. What we'd like to do is we'd like to invite you all to join our Mentimeter poll. So you can go ahead and scan it, and then there are some questions that we would like you to answer. The first one is, what are the biggest challenges and opportunities of AI in education? We'd love to have you submit some of your thoughts on this topic. You have a few, maybe the next presentation time to do so. And then we will go over some of it so we can kind of see how everyone engage, how everyone is feeling about this, and then maybe carry on some of those thoughts into the workshops later. So as our next contributor, I'd like to invite Professor Maha Bali from the American University in Cairo to the stage for her remarks.
We'll use a timer too. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. This means peace be upon you in Arabic. And since we're talking about languages, may I invite you all to out loud say hello in your language all at the same time. I'm going to go 3, 2, 1, and then we're all going to say hello in our language, okay? 3, 2, 1. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much. All right, I'm very happy to be with you here today. And I'm going to talk about critical AI literacy and focus on covert bias in generative AI. The picture over there, my daughter will recognize. This was my daughter prompting DALL-E with a cute picture of the Sphinx. So I'm from Egypt. And this is one of the uses of AI that I think is fun and interesting in education. What is not so much fun is when my students tried to get an image of an Egyptian going to work, and it gave them an image of like a King Tut holding a laptop bag with camels and pyramids behind them. That was not so good. So that's sort of where I'm coming from. Mark mentioned colonization. It's important to remember that coloniality survives colonialism, and AI and all kinds of technology reproduce that. And this is not a small thing that we just say in the margins of our discussions about AI. These should be central. So I also want to quote Desmond Tutu. It's so important for us from emerging economies, from the global south, not to be picking up crumbs of compassion from what the technologies of the global north offer us. Not only do we want the full menu of rights, which is what Desmond Tutu said, but I think we should be creating our own menus as well with our own ingredients. And this is not simple. I mean, if we think about critical AI literacy, and I add the term critical here, because a lot of people talk about AI literacy, which is understanding how it works and learning prompt engineering. I think it's so much more than that. And I think we need to start by recognizing the inequalities and biases, which I'll talk about a little bit more today. And I'm sure the whole conference will be full of this. Examining ethical issues in the processes and the outputs, and thinking about crafting effective prompts, not prompt engineering. Because engineering is a precise, like who's an engineer here? I'm a computer scientist originally. Who here is an engineer? Engineering is pretty precise. Like you know what you're going to get when you give it something. Prompt engineering is not so precise. You may or may not get what you want. And every single time it's different. So I would say crafting effective prompts. And I think it's so important for all of us in education to learn how to assess appropriate use of AI. And so you were talking about relationality. A lot of people today have been talking about this. And where are the uses of AI going to be appropriate for whom, in what context? That's so important. So understanding how it works is important, but all these other things I think are more important before we start saying, okay, we're going to go ahead and use this in education. And so it is, a lot of people talk about AI as like, it's going to happen. You can't do anything about it. I think we should stop talking like that. It's not inevitable. The benefit or transformation is not inevitable. It may or may not happen. We have to talk about it as something that is contested, controversial, keep contesting it, keep discussing it, debating it. There may be possible benefits, but for them to be realized and to sort of avoid the risks, we still need to do a lot of work here. And, you know, eCampus Ontario has this whole site about all the potential harms and the references we have. And this is more and more of this is coming out. And there isn't enough time in 10 minutes to talk about all of this. But some of the historical inequalities, definitely the biased data sets being mostly white Western English. And I'll talk about this a little bit more as well. The fact that it was inaccessible in some locations. So Mark talked about like some people don't even have internet, some people don't have electricity, or at least not stable. But even ChatGPT, when it first came out, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Hong Kong, at least didn't have direct access to it. We had to pretend to be in another country to be able to access it urgently. And then, of course, historically AI, before generative AI. You know, with facial recognition, we know it was worse against darker faces and the impact on the criminal justice system when AI was used. We know in recruitment, we know search engines and reproduced bias. There's no reason to believe generative AI is going to be any better. And we need to be really vigilant. And of course, we're here in Europe, right? And the European Union have been very careful about like, where is it unacceptable risk? And education is like high risk, but not unacceptable. And that's where we have a little bit of leeway maybe. But also the ways in which AI has been created, the way generative AI has been trained, has been extractive and exploitative. You all know the story about the Kenyan workers who were used to filter AI content to make it not offensive and the kind of mental health challenges they faced. And they were contracted by OpenAI to do this so that the AI we see is polite and won't swear and won't promote violence. But these people were harmed by this. And OpenAI did not help them with those mental health challenges, and they were very low paid. Of course, it learns from users. It uses data without permission. We get something out of AI. We have no idea where this came from. Who's the source of this data? We can't even reference them. We can't see what their other values are to be able to put them in the larger frame of what scholarship and knowledge is. And of course, there's the impact on climate that very, very rarely gets talked about, but I'm sure will be talked about today, and water, just in the process of training and using generative AI. So if we focus on bias, and I talked about those Kenyan workers who were filtering the content, we know that AI, of course, is trained on, you know, it's reflecting the voices of the dominant, you know, position of power. That's what we're getting. That's what we're getting from the internet anyway, and AI is trained on that, right? And so, okay, so we'll think about, for it to be really neutral, it has to be fully representative of all people, both in the design of the data sets that gets fed into the system and all of that. But, and yes, all of us from the global south needs to have a say in determining what becomes of the corpus that feeds the output. So it's not just making sure that your data is in it. What becomes of it? What's happening in this black box of machine learning that creates the output that we get? I don't think that we have control over that just yet. And here's the tricky part. This is called the paradox of participation. If indigenous communities decided to allow more of their data to be fed into AI, they're going to lose agency over their data. What's going to happen? What's ChatGPT going to do with that data? How's it going to represent it? Is it going to misrepresent it? So they would lose rhetorical, technological, and data sovereignty. when they give it to the AI. And so when you give your data to AI, which is making it more representative, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to represent it the way you want it to be represented. And this is huge. And so you're trying to make this decision, do I allow AI to continue to be Western-centric? Or do I give it my data? But then what happens when I give the data? I can't do anything with what comes out of it. Who's gonna make sure that it gets trained the way I want it to be trained? And also, of course, you don't want the hegemony of any culture in any of that. So where are we gonna go with that? The other thing is, AI is these Kenyan workers teaching it not to be violent. It will refuse very obvious calls to violence, very obvious calls to racist jokes, racist comments. I've tested it with asking it, do you think this nationality or that nationality is likely to be terrorist? And it'll say we cannot say that terrorism is connected to any particular ethnic group. But when I tell it to define terrorism and give me examples, every single AI tool I've used gives majority Muslim examples. So this covert bias is something you only realize when you belong to the group against whom this discrimination is happening, or when you're very familiar with that culture and you're looking out for it and you notice it. Otherwise, if you don't know what you don't know. If that's the only example you're given, then that's what the conclusion you're going to reach, right? So there's been a lot of research on these implicit biases. And so it's going to talk as though it's egalitarian and exhibit subtle biases, just like human beings who aren't aware of their own biases. We all harbor biases. It has this bias against dialects. It has a bias towards people from lower socioeconomic regions. This research is incredible. If you haven't read it, it's called Which Humans? And weird here refers to Western, educated, industrialized, rich, and democratic. And I would say, like, I'm a Westernized person. I'm talking to you in English. I've been educated in English and American institutions my entire life. I'm not even that far from this group, you know? But if you look at this diagram, basically what it's showing you is the cultural distance from the United States of different countries, and then the values that ChatGPT exhibits and how correlated it is with humans from those countries. So if you'll see towards the top, the closer you are to of course, the United States is not just one culture, so this is kind of problematic already, right? This is probably the white people in the US. But anyway, the majority of the US, Canada, you see they're close to Australia, New Zealand. These are quite near the top, where they're not very culturally distant in the US in terms of their values, based on the survey they were using here. And ChatGPT's responses are actually quite close to what these people would say. And so if you are of that culture, it's highly likely that whatever ChatGPT produces seems like probably what you would have said. Like the distance might not be so huge. If you're maybe African-American, if you're from somewhere like, if you see Egypt, it's like, it's like very far away from the US culture and very far away, like almost zero correlation with what ChatGPT produces. And that really resonates with my experience. And my time is up, so I have a couple of slides left. But can you find your country? You see how far away Pakistan is, Tunisia, Jordan, Indonesia, Ethiopia, Kyrgyzstan, Philippines. You see where these are? All right. So for me, the important thing is, and I'm going to take like 2 more minutes, sorry. Accountability versus automation. You said they couldn't blame you. They should have someone to blame. If they didn't like the summary, that this in education, accountability is so important. As soon as you give something to the AI, we don't know who's accountable for something that goes wrong. And if we use it for learning analytics, for recruitment, for assessment, I don't understand why we're doing that. And it's also like, is every use of automation a good thing? Like the relationality that we may use, but also what do we lose when we automate? What kind of productivity do we lose? This comes from a, by the way, can you unshow my slides and then bring them back up again? Because I added something that is missing. Yeah, can you just go escape? No, just escape. And then come back in again. Because I had a QR code with my slides early on that didn't show, so I know. Just no, don't show it now. Just go back to the slide we're on. Oh, right, okay, whatever. So just come back to the slide. Sorry about that. Because I added QR codes to things, it's okay. All right. So this is from a roundtable, and people are worried. This is a roundtable. Lots of educators thinking about the future of education and how we're worried about it reproducing. So this personalization could lead to more formulaic and rigid things. it may limit people's ability to explore, limit their choices. So the human agency element is so important, both for students and for teachers. And we need to really make sure that when we use AI, we're not limiting anyone's agency. Can it better support people with disabilities? You were talking about autism, but does it sometimes reproduce normativity and ableism in the process? It's helping your autistic friend become more like us rather than helping us accept her for who she is. And I understand the dominant is the majority of people will not accept her as who she is, so that helps. I have a lot of blind friends, and of course that helps a lot with that kind of thing. Things about like AI detectors and using AI for surveillance, and it is more biased towards non-native speakers of English, thinking that they have used AI when they haven't. And so where might AI cause harm? When it reproduces biases in recruitment and learning analytics, where it can create inequalities in access, like which humans get this AI and others get the human teacher, that's kind of problematic, and where accountability and agency matters. I don't want to be dystopian. There's still hope, I think. There's an AI for Africa, entire group of people from Africa trying to think about how to use AI to empower us in Africa. There's the Open African Innovation Research, which happens, my institution is one of the main partners. And there's Mid-Year Festival, which I co-organize, myfest.equityunbound.org. You can join us for free, or you can pay money if you're able, where we discuss this for 3 months with people from all over the world. I hope you'll join us. Thank you very much. I'm sorry I went over time. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that super interesting and stimulating presentation. So what we want to do is quickly show some of the results that we got from the Mentimeter poll that we had before. So what are the biggest challenges of AI in education? So what we can see here is that a lot of you are thinking about things like bias, which has already been spoken about by some of our presenters. We have critical thinking, we have things like encouraging plagiarism, then we also have collaboration, agency. So we really do seem to have a big mix of both things that can be seen as positive challenges or have potential to be positive, but also things that really could significantly negatively impact experiences within higher education. So that's really interesting. If anyone wants to take a picture, please go ahead now, because we'll probably switch the slide. But anyway, I would really like to introduce our next panelist to the stage. Professor Santiago Bellomo from Austral University in Argentina.
Well, thank you so much for the invitation to join this summit and this opening panel. It's a true honor to be among such distinguished colleagues and friends. You know, a few days ago, we had this mind-blowing presentations by OpenAI, Google, Microsoft, and I had to rewrite my entire presentation. And this is not the worst thing. I think Mark and my colleagues have already said what I wanted to share with you. But well, I'm a philosopher, and philosophers are hard to shut up. So I'll speak anyway. If you can, I can. Well. I would like to start with this simple question. Is AI a game changer in education? Many people still think AI as a super powered search engine, like a super Google, let's say. I think we must avoid this misconception. Let's go back in time. The invention of the book and the printing press were game changers in education, because they broadened the access to a heritage of humanity's knowledge. And the internet went even further and broadened even more this access by making this information available universally and in an ubiquitous way. The information not only encompasses facts, but procedures. We can know how to make an apple pie or how to deliver a conference in ICDE Summit, for example. And it is multimodal, which means we can access information through text, image, audio. And what about AI? I think AI makes a significant leap
forward by, in a way, making us available to, or by discovering the patterns within our creations, it can reproduce human activities and create new products that, in a way, they surpass human capacity to make those products. So AI, I feel that AI is a game changer in a deeper sense. It's a true game changer for education, as AI not only allow us to access the heritage of human information or knowledge, but to what I may call a legacy of canonical executive capabilities, as has been said. Many enthusiastic AI experts envision the rise of cyborgs and centaurs, humans wielding AI capabilities as an extension of themselves, boosting creativity, productivity, and even well-being. Well, that could be the case. Well, I have to show you some. These are AI pictures, by the way. I made it in 5 minutes with my computer. But there's a genuine concern about the opposite scenario as well. We could become overtly reliant on AI and hindering our own flourishment. So my statement up to now is that, in a way, AI has a paradoxical condition. The first paradox, which I call the paradox of the crutch and the oar, goes like this. The more capable AI becomes at replicating human abilities, the greater the benefits for those who already have enough development of those abilities. Conversely, the risks and potential harms are in a way bigger for those who have limited or no development of the same abilities. To put it simply, working with AI in, let's call it, or mode allows us to go further and faster in terms of our personal development, while using AI in crutch mode can lead to dependence by fully or partially replacing our capabilities. So is the crutch mode or the or mode prevailing? You know, reliable research on the subject is hard to find. Even a paper published 6 months ago with data collected even earlier becomes outdated even when it comes to light. And we are aware of well, contradictory statements between papers on the same subject, and we may be suspicious about non-academic biases that may lead some papers to certain conclusions. So facing these constraints, I've been asking educators all over the world, and I invite you to join this same survey from which I am sharing you some preliminary results. Educators share some concerns, as you can see. They fear the weakening of intellectual skills. They fear misinformation. And mostly, they fear dishonesty, academic dishonesty. Here, dishonesty must not be taken as a mere rule breaking, you know. The core issue about dishonesty is a compulsion to seek for shortcuts instead of taking the harder but most fulfilling path. But in a way, digital transformation offers shortcuts towards everywhere. We even have shortcuts for shortcuts. We don't even have to know how to make a prompt in order to make a wonderful AI video, you know. And entertainment platforms curate pre-digested recommendations for music and movies based on our previous choices and that of others. And this permeates our daily decisions. let's go to the second paradox. Many experts claim that AI is a powerful tool for reducing inequalities all over the world. And well, I've seen Microsoft Reading Coach, and I feel it's a wonderful tool. It's a learning accelerator that could eventually help to bridge the literacy gaps within and between schools. However, there are some baseline conditions we need to run these tools. For example, the Spanish version of a reading coach is really bad. We really hope that this issue will be addressed in the near future, but as has been said, we still need electricity, we need connectivity, we need laptops for each student. And we know these resources are scarce in many regions, particularly in the global south. So, well, furthermore, the cost issue is a significant factor. Even the cheapest versions of these tools are out of reach for millions of students, teachers, and organizations. And beyond affordability, we still need teachers with enough digital literacy in order to run these tools and take profit from them. So, however, the potentiality of AI to become a leveler in terms of inclusion and equality, are we facing the possibility of an AI divide? Are we running into a Matthew effect? I don't know if you know the Matthew effect is sometimes summarized, the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, and it's taken from a loose interpretation from the parable of the talents in the Matthew of Gospel, or the Gospel of Matthew, sorry. As you can see, AI, many educators, I asked educators, as I asked yourself, what they think about the subject. Most of them think that we are facing a kind of AI divide nowadays. So we have two paradoxes. AI can become an or become a crutch. It can become a leveler or a divider. And well, maybe it's both. We have the chance of both of these results. What is the answer to the, sorry. Oh, I'm going further and further. Sorry, sorry about that. The answer to the problem of the paradox is ethics. More and better ethics is the answer to the paradoxes, and not more and better technology. Ethics demands our genuine commitment with our own development that prevents us from taking shortcuts that diminish our own flourishment. Ethics demands our commitment with the other so that the benefits of the digital transformation reach everyone, and especially those who need them most. So that's all for all. If you are in the mood to talk to yourself a bit more, please download my recent book. Sorry, it's in Spanish, but it's for free. Thanks to Globethics, globethics.net library. So thank you very much for the opportunity.
So after that super stimulating contribution, I would like to invite you to go ahead and fill out another Mentimeter question. So you can go on the same link again and then fill out the question that is being asked there. You once again have time until the end of the next contribution, and then we will go ahead and review what you guys have all contributed. So for our next contribution, we have the honor of introducing Fan Xian Rui from Open University of China to the stage.
Yeah, Dr. Naresa, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It's a great pleasure to have the opportunity to speak on behalf of the Open University, OUC, at the ICDE Leadership Summit 2024. I think 10 minutes is so short, but fortunately we have the PPT. So my topic today is building a digital university in the era of AI, opportunities and challenges. The presentation is composed of 4 sections: international backgrounds, China's strategies, and OUC's practice, and proposals and prospects. As we know, since the release of ChatGPT by OpenAI at the end of 2022, AI has become a focal point of attention worldwide. The development of AI exhibits 2 trends. First, explosive innovation. Second, the diversity of AI applications in the field of education. Educational institutions worldwide, including open universities, are taking initiatives to explore AI application in education and its transformative power to drive education digitalization. Meanwhile, there are also concerns such as data security and effective personal privacy protection, opacity and non-interpretability of AI algorithms form barriers to their practical application in education. Digital divides, educational equality, and ethical issues. And the next, I want to see China's strategy. The Chinese government puts great emphasis on the empowering role of AI in education and teaching. It has advocated using AI to drive educational innovation, accelerate the digital transformation of education, and to build a society of learning where lifelong learning is pursued by all. On March 5th, Chinese Premier Li Chang proposed to deepen the research and application of big data and AI, and launched the AI Plus initiative. On March 28th, the Ministry of Education of China initiated an AI-powered education campaign. The campaign includes 4 specific actions. First, opening an AI learning column on the Smart Education of China platform. Second, upgrading the Smart Education of China platform to support personalized lifelong learning for all. And third, is promoting the successful applications of large AI models in education. In order to explore innovation and make data more intelligent, we launch Lead Action. The fourth, building international exchange platform for AI and digital education. To promote the construction of an international community is AI education. Then the third section 3, I want to talk about OUC's practice. OUC attaches great importance to the impact of the latest generation of AI technology on education. Our university actively explores the integration of AI technology in every aspect of education and teaching. Our vision is to build a digital university that connects the world. As a digital university, it is committed to advancing the digitalization of the entire educational process, learning resources, teaching, assessments, administration, and services. It aims to establish ubiquitous and intelligent ecosystem for lifelong learning, contributing to constructing a learning-oriented society and a nation where everyone can learn anywhere and anytime. Currently, we prioritize 4 tasks that focus on the application of AI. First, create intelligent, interactive learning models for lifelong learners, 白泽 Smart Learning Company, and Smart Custom Service. Second, creating intelligent learning scenarios for course instruction to improve learning experience and outcomes. And third, implementing AI-powered coursework evaluation. We have developed an intelligent assessment system that supports generating and graduating test papers by AI. Fourth, supporting personalized learning. We are piloting an adaptive learning system based on knowledge graphs. While we have seen initial success in our explorations, many issues and challenges arise as we further integrate AI into the digital university construction. For instance, large-scale AI applications face technological risks. Integrating AI technology with educational scenarios needs further development, and teachers' AI literacy and skills must be enhanced. In the future, we will continue to explore models and paths for building digital university empowered by AI. And the section 4, I want to see something about proposal and prospects. Looking to the future, we propose the following initiatives. First, deepen the integration of AI and education. Actively explore ways of applying AI to enhance education and teaching, addressing urgent real-world problems in education. Second, enhance the AI literacy of the teaching staff. Third, focus on the ethics and regulation of AI in education. We should strive to promote safe, reliable, and trustworthy AI systems, adhering to the principle of AI for good. Fourth, strengthen international governance in the field of AI. AI's opportunities, risks, and challenges are global issues. Therefore, enhancing international cooperation and governance in AI is of great importance. We should ensure that AI serves the common good for all humanity and the global community, thereby enhancing the welfare of all humankind. So that's all for my speech. But at last, I will think, welcome to China and welcome to OUC. I think 10 minutes is so short, but it's enough. Thank you, everybody.
So we've heard so many interesting different inputs from all of our panelists, but also from all our speakers throughout this entire opening plenary. What I'd like to really touch upon is what you all contributed. So what are the biggest opportunities of AI for education? This is kind of the counterpart to the question you answered before and that we discussed before. So we have things like innovation, accessibility, personalization. These are all things that some of our speakers touched on very, very nicely. Creative production, rewording complex tasks. So if anyone wants to take a picture, please do so. We are at the end of our introductory session. We've heard so many different, we've had so many different impressions, heard so many inspiring people speak. And I hope that this is kind of just the foretaste to how the rest of this summit will continue to be. We would really like to thank all of our speakers. We have some small gifts for all of you, so we would love if you came up to the stage to come collect those. I think we're going to go ahead and start with some of our. So we would like to welcome to the stage again Mark Nichols. I don't. And then I'd also like to thank Bi Xiaohan and Beatrice Ferrari for being some of our introductory speakers. So you can come up and collect your books as well. And I'd of course also like to thank all of our panelists in the first panel. Your talks were all very inspiring, and we thank you for taking the time to do so. Yeah, so we'd love, sorry, Beatrice, could you come up and we can take a picture with all of you? So I'm sure you are all a bit tired from all the listening. We have lunch next, and then at 2, we ask you to come back for the workshops, where you can see we have a bunch of different topics that you can choose where you would like to go. We really encourage you to RSVP on the app, but you are all welcome to choose any. Before we go to lunch, though, we encourage you or ask you all to come to the stairs by the entrance for a group photo so that we can commemorate all of us being here together. But for the first round, I'd like to thank you all for your attention and the speakers for their input and thoughts. And I look forward to continuing this conversation after lunch.